Hi, I'm Dennis Vandergast. Being an attorney, I know that the law can get confusing. In Legal Squeaks, we provide you with useful and easy to understand squeaks of information on legal and consumer issues that you can apply in your daily life. Let's get started. Welcome to Legal Squeaks. I'm Dennis Vandergast. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to Legal Squeaks on your favorite podcast platform. Today, I'm going to talk to you about commercial truck accidents. From a lay perspective, it may not seem important to distinguish these type of accidents from other traffic accidents, but they are very different and distinct from accidents that only involve passenger vehicles. So this is a topic that's definitely worthy of its own discussion. And I have a special passion about this topic because I have served on the Interstate Trucking Litigation Group of the American Association for Justice for many years, and I currently serve on the National Advisory Council for the Association of Plaintiff Interstate Trucking Lawyers of America. As an attorney, I've handled numerous cases involving big rigs and other large commercial trucks, and on a personal level, I've had loved ones who have been involved in these accidents. So I know firsthand the devastation that these types of accidents can cause. So the term commercial vehicle usually indicates any motor vehicle that's used to transport goods or paying passengers. But when I use the term commercial trucks, I mean the types of vehicles that can really create havoc and serious accidents on the roadways. For instance, um, the vehicles that are sometimes referred to as big rigs or tractor trailers, semis, 18 wheelers. Similar concerns would exist for tanker trucks, buses, box trucks, any large truck of that nature. These vehicles are held to a heightened safety standard due to that size and power. Drivers are required to undergo specific training to operate them, and the vehicles themselves are subject to regular inspections. Accident cases involving those types of vehicles can be considerably more complex than a regular car accident might have been. According to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, between 2000 and 2018, nearly 90,000 people died in the United States because of crashes involving large trucks and buses. During that same period of time, over 1.8 million people were injured in accidents involving big trucks and buses. Now, obviously, people can be injured or killed in regular traffic accidents as well. It doesn't have to involve a commercial truck. But the risk of death or serious injury resulting from these accidents is much higher due to the size and weight of these types of commercial vehicles. Don't get me wrong, the overwhelming majority of truck drivers are safe and thoughtful drivers. In fact, I've got several family members who either are currently or have in the past been over the road truck drivers. In addition, most trucking companies adhere to the applicable state and national regulations regarding training and supervision of drivers and the inspection and maintenance of vehicles. And accidents involving large trucks are often, not their fault. Often it's the fault of people driving smaller cars around them who fail to take into account the size of the trucks, the lack of maneuverability, or the large blind spots that sometimes exist with trucks, especially older trucks. But having said that, large truck drivers do cause their fair share of accidents as well. And one of the main concerns with this type of vehicle is that, given the fact that it has extremely high inertia, it means it takes longer for it to stop. And if a driver doesn't leave adequate room between that commercial vehicle and a car in front of it, he or she might end up rear-ending someone with disastrous consequences. So, like I mentioned, regular maintenance of big rigs and other large commercial vehicles is extremely important. And that's because commercial vehicles are required to adhere to certain safety standards for their air brakes. Large commercial vehicles are notorious for brake problems, and inspecting the vehicle after an accident can reveal important information about the state of its braking system, including brake lining adjustments and durability tests. Equipment malfunction is often a contributing factor in these types of accidents. Trucking companies have to keep a record of the vehicle maintenance, but they're allowed to discard those records after a certain period of time. Uh, and it's very common that those records are crucial to evaluating accident cases. So it's really important to gain access to them right away before all the relevant maintenance records are either destroyed or discarded somehow. Another source of negligence might be the company who loaded and secured the cargo in the tractor trailer. Sometimes loads are too heavy or they're not properly secured so that they shift when the vehicle is moving or making turns, and that causes the vehicle to become unstable and perhaps tip over or again get the momentum going in such a fashion that they cannot the driver loses control of the vehicle, causing an accident. Speaking of the driver losing control, driver error may be a cause, obviously, of big rig accidents as well. Truck drivers have the same distractions as other drivers on the roadways, including sometimes being distracted due to texting or phone usage. But in addition to those other typical distractions that we all face when we're driving, uh, truckers can have long hours on the road, which can cause fatigue, which often is going to contribute to accidents. Um, in addition, there's the stress of constantly rushing to meet deadlines with respect to deliveries, and that can play an adverse impact on physical and mental health. Intoxication can be a part of the puzzle. It's always good to do an extensive search into the driving histories in order to determine what the exact nature of the delivery was, and that can be useful for building a case. If an operator, for instance, has a poor driving record, it's much more likely that the accident was a result of his or her human error. Speaking of drivers, a commercial driver's license, a CDL, is the driver's license required to operate large, heavy, or placarded hazardous material vehicles in commerce. The Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Act established the minimum requirement that must be met when a state issues a CDL. And there are different classes of licensure and endorsements which are going to determine what types of vehicles a person is allowed to operate. Sometimes there are other outside factors that may contribute to these types of accidents, including weather conditions, road work, dangerous roadways. These are all factors that need to be evaluated to see what uh, impact they may have had on any given scenario when we're talking about an accident involving a large truck or a big rig or a tanker truck, for instance. Speaking of, injuries from a commercial vehicle accident can also be complicated. Obviously, there's the risk of serious bodily injuries or death, but if the vehicle was carrying a harmful substance such as chemicals, then the victims are at risk for suffering a myriad of other medical problems. In the worst case scenario, sometimes the cargo might even increase the risk of cancer or respiratory problems, which could affect the person's quality of life and employment opportunities for the rest of his or her life. So there are a number of things that are pertinent to large truck accident cases that just don't usually arise in your typical passenger vehicle car accidents. That's why it's important that if you've had an accident that involves this type of consideration, that you have an attorney helping you that is familiar with the rules and regulations that impact these types of accidents. I hope this information has been useful, and I also hope you never have to use it. If you have any questions, Vandergast Law is always honored to help. Again, please be sure to subscribe and review Legal Squeaks as well as our other podcast, Uncommon Combos. Also, check out legalsqueaks.com where you can suggest topics for upcoming podcasts. So please have a great day, stay safe, and I love you all.